Hello, welcome in. My name is Mason. I go by Greyce on Dueling Book, and I wanted to start a little bit of a series in examining some of my replays and trying to learn from them and trying to improve as much as I can. One of my goals in 2023 was to continue getting better at GOAT format. I made a few good strides, I think, last year, and I wanted to improve upon it and, get even better, take it even more seriously. Um, you know, at the end of the day, Yugioh is not the focal point in my life. I have a lot of other hobbies and things that are far more important to me, but if I'm going to have a hobby, I want to do it well. I want to do it right, and I want to perform well. I want to do better and improve, and one of the best ways to do that is to reflect and look back. So that's kind of what the goal of this is. My main goal is I'm not trying to get many views on these videos or anything, but I know people enjoy this type of content, and this is to kind of force myself to sit down and look at some replays and find places where I can improve. And I'm sure there will be hundreds of them because I have a long way to go in this game, as you will tell immediately. I don't really necessarily view myself as a great GOAT format player, but that's why we're here. We're trying to learn and we're trying to get better. So yeah, we can go ahead and get into it. If you see anything that's obvious that you would improve upon, or any very obvious misplays, let me know in the comments. My only ask is that you don't, say things in terms of absolutes. I don't like the idea that there's 100% a right and 100% a wrong play. I think that things are more gray than that. Games like these where you have different decision trees and every decision that you make is based off of a very wide variety of circumstances. I don't think things are always so simple. I think that there are good plays and there are bad plays, but I don't think it's necessarily 100% one way or the other. So this was a duel. I just remember, I don't have a ton of memories exactly from this, but I remember it was a pretty fun duel. I played against Crashvolt, who's a really good GOAT format duelist, and we had a pretty fun match. This was in one of the GOAT format Friday tournaments, I think like a week or so ago. I just remember it being a pretty fun match, so I figured this would be a good one to kind of look back on here. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm playing Warriors. It's, what I feel most comfortable on. I play a few other decks, but Warriors is really my bread and butter. So let's get into it here. I have an interesting hand. You don't usually see a ton of hands like this with Warriors. Yes, I run 2 Book of Moons, but so he opens Thunder Dragon, which I just automatically assume he's playing Turbo, which might be a mistake in my thinking. So he duos, hits my Graceful. That hurts, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. In situations like that, I try not to get too tilted. I don't always think like this, but I think the best mindset in situations like this is, hey, this is a good opportunity for me to make a great comeback. How cool would it be if I end up winning this duel despite getting my Graceful hit by a duo turn 1? I think that's the mentality to have in situations like this. So in this situation, I end up deciding to use my draw phase priority to MST his back row. Don't know if this is the play to make, but in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I'm behind. I really just don't want my one monster to get hit by Dust Shoot. And if this does happen to be a spy that's set, I don't want to run into a Raigeki break or something because he has Thunder Dragons in hand. So that's part of my thinking behind it. It might be wrong because I could easily run into a Jar of Greed here and just be in a lot of trouble. But I also really didn't want to lose my Sasuke. So I used draw face priority. I hit a heavy storm, which makes me think he's playing a little tricky. Summon Sasuke, go ahead and just swing in. If it's a spy or a Koichi, I'm perfectly fine with that. It ends up being a Sinister, which is interesting. I end up setting both Book and Solemn. This was not a good play in hindsight. I don't think there was any reason to set both of them. I don't really see a ton of reasons in which situations in which I would need both of them set, because if for whatever reason he, gets a Magician of Faith to get back the Heavy Storm, I'm in kind of a tough situation that I just put myself in. So I don't think this is best. Yeah, don't think that was the best play. So he sets one. I draw into Kaiku. I go ahead and summon the Kaiku, and I'm just going to try to get in for some damage here. Part of my thinking is that if he sets Sinister again, I can banish it off of Kaiku, which is awesome. But I also am keeping in the back of my mind that, hey, this might not be a Sinister. It could easily be a Spy. It could easily be a Dekoichi. But, the more that I think about it, it probably wasn't a Spy. A good player is not going to set a Spy into a Sasuke without a way to answer it. But I'm hoping that it's a Sinister. And we run into Faith, which I absolutely never considered it. I don't know why that never even crossed my mind in the slightest. So that was a big misplay. Luckily, we get to banish the Faith, so we can't get it back off of a Night Assailant discard, which is nice. But I'm already thinking in my mind, all right, what am I going to do about this Heavy? So he rips it, and I decide not to respond. I think that Book is not super great in this matchup anyway, and I just don't think it's worth using Heavy or using Solemn on it. He brings out a Breaker, which I had not considered as well. It's one of the things I want to be better about, considering all of the options available, even though Breaker is one card, even though Faith is, a card that's not always played in threes anymore. I need to keep these in the back of my mind that these are potential avenues the game could go, and, that might not change the decisions that I make, but it could at least thinking about them is wise. All right. So draw a ring. I think we kind of have to set it here, or else we just lose our Sasuke to the Breaker. We're just going to trade 1-for-1 with the Breaker, whether or not he uses the ability. He brings out Sorcerer, which gives him another +1. Ends up attacking, which I'm a little confused by, because it just gives me light and dark. If I, top deck BLS, I'm in a really good position. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he wanted the extra damage, and part of my thinking is that maybe he has Snatch Steal in hand and wants me to bring out BLS, but that doesn't really make any sense either. He straight up loses to a top deck BLS. Not anymore, I guess. So yeah, I'm not sure why he did that, but I'm sure there was a reason. So I run into Sasuke. I'm just gonna get another 1-for-1 trade. Maybe there's a universe in which I hold this, but I think that going ahead and using it is the best play. I don't want to keep trading 1-for-1, but I don't really have a choice. Same situation here. I think I need to trade 1-for-1 with whatever his face down is. It could easily be Sinister, and then I'm just screwed, but it ends up being a Dekoichi, which is nice. So I don't know if that was 100% the best play, but if it's anything other than a Sinister and I don't attack into it with Mystic Swordsman, I'm just even further behind. So I think in situations like this, especially with Warriors, you just have to kind of go for it. Try to make something happen. Try to chunk away at their life points. Draw into Mirror Force, which could potentially be okay until he flips the Royal Decree. So not looking good here at this point. BLS is still live, which is kind of crazy to think about. Drawn to Prima, which is cool because it'll get back Kaiku. Trying to think if there's a world where we get back Sasuke instead, but I don't think so. I think this Sinister sitting in Graveyard is just too enticing. I end up attacking the Thunder Dragon because if he has some way to get rid of my Haiku next turn, then the Thunder Dragon would be enough to kill me. So I end up going with Thunder Dragon. Not sure if that was best. I see a creature swap, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. When I see the creature swap, I'm starting to think, okay, maybe this is not turbo, or maybe this is some weird variation, because everything right now points to turbo that he's playing. But then I see the creature swap, it starts to maybe make me kind of second guess what kind of deck I'm going up against. Maybe there's an argument to Mirror Force here. Not 100% sure why I didn't do it, because then that turns off my BLS. I think part of it is I'm thinking, hey, if I can draw into a Blade Knight or a Rhoda, or I think that's about it. If I draw into a Blade Knight or a Rhoda or something along those lines, I can get some value here without having to use. Oh yeah, never mind. There's a Royal Decree on the field. Lord. So these are the things. This is why we're here learning. So Mirror Force is dead. And I lose the game. Yeah, not sure why I didn't think about that, but we've all done it. Okay, so yeah, like I put in chat, I walked right into that heavy storm. That was a mistake. Interesting game, though. I think if there's anything to take from it, it's just setting both of those back row was completely unnecessary. And I think that because I got my graceful hit by Duel early, I think I kind of threw caution to the wind a little too much and didn't consider a lot of my options. I didn't consider that he could possibly have faith. I think beyond that, we didn't play too terribly there near the end. We were trying to make something happen. All we could really do was just trade 1-for-1s, and the decree kind of sealed the deal. All right, so game 2. This is my starting hand. So I like 7 tools a lot. Not a ton of people are big fans of it, but I really like it against like the mirror match and any kind of deck that's running Solemn Judgments. Essentially, I think it just gets a ton of value in those matchups, and I'm not quite sure why I sided in here. I think that was a bit of a mistake. It's just not that valuable in this matchup. So then, what do? We don't want to summon Tribe. We don't want to summon Swordsman. We have no way to protect them. My only options really are summon Sasuke or Rhoda for a Deity Warrior Lady and summon them. Or we don't have to do anything at all. We can kind of play passive and see what they do, which I don't think is horrible. Maybe I should have brought out Sasuke, but I'm always hesitant to just Rhoda so early, especially when we have monsters in your hand, because it's Warrior Toolbox for a reason, right? You need that access to the different toolbox depending on the situation, and there's not a situation yet, so I'm not sure. So we just sets 1. I'm thinking this could be Raigeki Break. This could be Jar of Greed, though I haven't seen any of those, so I'm not sure. But it also could be Scapegoat, but I don't think I was thinking that far ahead that it could be something along those lines. I should have known when I saw the creature swap, when I saw the decrees, that this could be some sort of control variation, but I think still in my mind I'm thinking this is like turbo with decrees for some reason, just because I didn't see metamorphosis or anything. So I decided to go ahead and swing in with Sasuke just to get in some damage. We've got a lot of follow-up if this gets hit by any sort of trap, so I'm not super hesitant to do it, and we have the 7 tools as well to back up our plays if we need to. Summon Tsukiyomi, which kind of sucks to see, but should have been a little more prepared for that, I think. I can't remember if we had Mirror Force in our opening hand. I don't think we did not. because otherwise I might have said that, and that would have been better. So he goes into Swords of Revealing Light. This leaves me with a little bit of choice here whether I should heavy because I draw it, and I don't know. I don't know if this is the right play. I think part of my mind is I'm thinking, hey, this guy's pretty good. He probably has played far more matches against Warriors than I've played as Warriors against Chaos, and I think if anything, I just want to try to simplify the game state as much as possible. We're basically even in cards. I know he has 2 Thunder Dragons in hand, so that puts him at 5 cards. If I heavy, that puts him at, we have 5 cards when he draws for turn to my 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. So I'm thinking let's just simplify the game state here. He hasn't used this, so it's probably not a Jar of Greed or anything like that. That's super chainable. It could be a Scapegoat, but it ends up being a Book of Moon, which is interesting. So I go ahead and go for DD Warrior Lady because I don't want something that can get run over by Tsukiyomi, which is only DD Warrior Lady or Donzalug. And then we set the Mirror Force behind. I think that's reasonable. If he summons a Breaker here, that really hurts, but I'm willing to take that chance. He T-sets. I think the correct play is the Mystic Swordsman. I'm willing to risk running into a Mirror Force or something along those lines because we have the Nobleman to follow up, and I'm willing to take that risk. But we end up just using Nobleman. I don't know if that's necessarily correct. Maybe playing a little more passive, just trying to play it slow the game down a little bit. But really, in hindsight, you don't want to slow the game down against a deck like this. And at this point, it kind of confirms, all right, this is probably some sort of control. And I really hadn't sided accordingly. I think because I didn't directly see 1,000 Eyes Restrict hit the field, that I didn't side for control, which is obviously a mistake in hindsight. So he does shoot. I think the obvious thing here is to send back Tribe. So we know that he has Decree, Creature Swap, and Heavy. He's going to Creature Swap he's probably going to Creature Swap one of his tokens for my DD Warrior Leader, but we don't really have an answer for that. So we send back Tribe. He does exactly that. And then he sets the Decree. I'm thinking it's Decree. Could be Heavy, but I don't know. I think after what happened game 1 where the setting Heavy, I don't know. It could be either or, but in my mind I'm thinking Decree automatically, which I don't know if that's correct thinking either, but so we have a couple options here. Obviously, I don't want to MST right away. Probably not. If I think it's Heavy, maybe, but if it's Decree, I don't want to MST right away. Save it until it's useful. My other option, is to bring out Tribe and then ditch Swordsman to potentially either get rid of the tokens or get rid of DD Warrior Lady. I know he doesn't have any follow-up with the tokens, so I'm not super concerned about them at the moment. So I think if I was going to do that, I would ditch Mystic Swordsman to get rid of DD Warrior Lady, then attack one of the tokens, and just pray he doesn't draw into the meta, but I don't know. And I end up taking a bit more of a passive approach, it seems, and doing nothing. So we confirm it's the Decree, which is good. We have the MST as an answer. I don't know if I necessarily need to set the MST, but I don't think it's the end of the world either. Because if he brings out Breaker or something, we can always just chain. So we'll go ahead and take the 1500. I think part of the reason I didn't make the Tribe Swordsman play last turn is because I just feel like Swordsman has a lot of value in this matchup, whether or not that's correct. That's just what I think, and so I'm waiting to see what I get next. if I want to ditch something else for the tribe effect rather than swordsman. So he sets another one, which is either heavy or it's a new spell or trap that he drew. And I decide to go ahead and MST that. I think that's okay. I don't have any other spell or traps, and I think I'd finally made up my mind that, hey, I'm going to make a play next turn with this tribe, whether or not I draw into something that I want to discard. So we hit a book, which I think is okay. We draw BLS, which BLS is not live. We only have a light in our grave. So I think the thinking is I'm trying to make something happen here, trying to get aggressive. I know that he has 2 Thunder Dragons in hand, and that's it. So he doesn't really have any follow-up here, depending on what he draws. So I'm willing to just go for it. And I end up using the tribe, dishing the BLS to get rid of the DD Warrior Lady, then attacking one of the tokens, again praying that he doesn't draw into a creature swap or a meta, which I still hadn't seen a meta, so I wasn't even 100% sure that those existed. Yeah, he draws another one, which could yeah, I'm not sure. I think I mentioned earlier that one of his options could be heavy, though he must have already played it. I don't remember how that heavy got in the grave, so whatever. I forget. So we just go ahead and attack with the tribe. We know he has 2 Thunder Dragons in hand. Decide to set the Duel. This is something I have a tendency to do a lot, is just with my dead cards, which, it's not even necessarily a dead card. This could be useful, but I haven't seen any Raigeki breaks or anything that would, which a Raigeki break would be dead anyway because Decree's on the field. So I don't know. Part of my thinking is these Thunder Dragons aren't doing anything for him, and so I don't want to use Duel yet. And I think that's one of my bad habits, is just setting stuff like this when it's not necessary. I can keep it in my hand and wait and see what he does. It also could be good discard fodder for tribe, down the line. So I don't know. I think that was a mistake. So he sets one more. We draw into Nobleman. I think we just attack here. And part of my thinking is that he's kind of locked out by this decree. He might have a trap or 2 set that he can't use. He might have, some scapegoats that he doesn't want to activate because the tribe is on the field and he doesn't have any follow-up. So I'm content to just keep attacking with this tribe. He brings out a gorilla, which kind of hurts. We need to draw an answer to the gorilla and quick. And we draw the answer of answers, Pot of Greed. I decided to just go ahead and exile. I think this is pretty linear, pretty straightforward here. Yeah. Otherwise, he's just putting too much damage on the board if we don't get rid of this thing as quick as possible. Brings out Kaiku, which is fine. We've already lost our BLS, so I'm not super concerned, and we still have plenty of stuff in grave if we decide to premature. If he vanishes too, we still have tribe and exiled in grave, so no worries there. I'm still thinking that he's locked out of stuff with his 2 sets, and I'm not thinking that he has a Book of Moon set because he's already used 2 of them. So I decided to just go ahead and go in with the breaker, and I'm content to just keep this dude at 1900. So he just passes back, and now I'm just going to try to keep swinging him with damage. There's a decree on the field, so I'm not too concerned about a lot. Here comes the scapegoat, so Since we got rid of the scapegoat, I'm thinking in my mind that the other face down is probably some sort of real trap, but I could be wrong. This is also the first time we've seen that he has another card beside his Thunder Dragons that he's kept in hand, so I want to go ahead and just try to get it out of his hand. 33% chance, and we do hit that extra card, which is Decree, which is just doing absolutely nothing for him. Anyway. Set 1. There's a couple options here. I could summon Kaiku, the Nobleman, just to get an extra Kaiku swing in, which in hindsight is not bad. But I end up going a little bit more of the conservative approach, just taking out that with the Mystic Swordsman. We're in a really good spot here. It's so funny that I set the duo earlier unnecessarily, and I don't set the ring. Not like the ring's gonna become active, but I'm at least smart enough to hold on to it, where for stuff like this I wasn't. So I don't know, very inconsistent with stuff like that, and he ends up just admitting defeat. So he drew a lot of decrees, which kind of was clogging his hand, and he was probably just dead drawing, just not a lot of great hands. So against good players, sometimes you just have to get lucky, and they have to draw really well, or they have to draw poorly, I mean to say. Game 3, open up double cross out, and he sets one, so that's nice. So the play here, I think, is to just rip the duo. We haven't seen a Sinister, we haven't seen a Thunder Dragon, and I end up not using duo right away. Not sure why. Really not sure why I didn't do that. Trap Dust Shoot. Okay, that makes sense. I was thinking, am I crazy? Okay, so we want to Dust Shoot and then duo. That makes sense. Alright, so we set duo and then heavy. I sometimes like setting heavy. I think I do it too often, trying to get a little tricky with it, but especially with something like Dust Shoot, it can be good because most people will assume that if you Dust Shoot that your other set is a real trap, and they'll set another one behind and you can get a +1 on the heavy. Especially against good players, they won't just instantly MST or heavy your back rows, and it'll give you a chance to kind of weasel out some advantage somehow. So we pop the Dust Shoot. We see Kaiku, Creature Swap, Nobleman, Tsukiyomi, and Faith. We have the other Nobleman for Faith. I'm not too worried about Faith, and he doesn't really have a ton of spells that are doing him a lot of use. I'm not sure why he kept in the Noblemans. Maybe he was, either that was just a mistake on his part, or maybe he was expecting that I was going to side in Despise or other flips like some warrior players do. Maybe he was kind of thinking on the next level, trying to anticipate that. I'm not sure. So we Dust Shoot. I think in my mind it's either between Tsukiyomi or Kaiku. Kaiku would be good, but at the same time, if I summon any monster, he's going to be able to Tsukiyomi, then creature swap it, and that would be really backbreaking. So I decided to go with the Tsukiyomi. I'm not sure if that's 100% right, but that's the choice that I make. He comes in with Kaiku, which is fine. I do the little fake think because, like I said, if you set Dust Shoot, they probably anticipate that your other set is a real trap, so I'm trying to make it look like I'm thinking about whether to, if it's like a battle trap or something, if I want to activate it. I just do it really quick. I don't know if this is like a morally gray part of the game. If you think that's really scummy, then please let me know. I'm curious. I do feel like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Live, that's kind of part of the game, it's trying to Because I just feel like if you instantly react to anything, they're going to have a better read on what you could potentially have. And I don't think that means you need to go into the tank for 20 seconds with every decision you make. But at the same time, you do have to kind of stay balanced with how you're reacting to different things. So I don't know. It's kind of a gray area to me. But and I don't do this too often, but I think here it could be useful. And so yeah, I do just real quickly do the fake little thing, and he does set another behind, which I know that it's either creature swap or nobleman. I mean, obviously we saw it was nobleman, but so then we can basically just go +1 with the heavy and then +1 with the duo. But honestly, I probably could have saved the heavy. I don't know if it's great to go ahead and use the heavy, but I mean, we have a chance to go really, really plus here. We don't have an answer for the Kaiku still, but still, I mean, a chance to go this far is nice, and we end up running into both noblemen set, which is crazy. And then we duo for the faith and the creature swap, so huge. So we're up a card on him. Up 2 cards, I guess. Up a card and a half, I guess, if you're doing that. Technically, we need to find an answer for the Kaiku pretty soon. He sits one behind. I don't end phase Dust because I don't really have a follow-up yet. I think that's the correct play. And we're waiting for potential Royal Decrees. MST's the new one. Okay. We take the 18, and then next thing I know, I'm already at 1600, really, really low. So need to find an answer for the Kaiku. I find the DD Warrior Lady. I've seen that he's already used 2 of the noblemen, so I'm not too afraid to go ahead and set the DD Warrior Lady. I really wouldn't be too afraid anyway, but he kept the noblemens in for whatever reason. Attacks, I go ahead and just banish. So I have to get rid of the Kaiku. I don't really have a choice. We draw a ring. He sets 2, which make me think that one of them is a real trap and one of them is probably a bluff. That's kind of just what I naturally think in those situations. I don't know if that's correct or not. So I don't end up using Death Tornado. I mean, we got a ring to help save us. I mean, if he brings out like a breaker would do us in, but yeah, breaker is not something I really took into consideration there. That would be bad. So we draw into Solemn, and we kind of do something similar. We set 1 real trap and set a bluff, just trying not to get the other one in phase hit, but I don't know why I would think that, because he's already used MST. I don't think that he has Dust Tornadoes in his deck, so I'm not sure if that's the best play either, but we end up keeping the Mind Control in hand. He sits on 1, we draw Cliff. I sided into Cliff because I saw Royal Decrees, and that was one of the problems too with this game. I didn't side well enough. I didn't directly see 1,000 Eyes Restrict on the field, so I just assumed that it wasn't control, which that was just dumb. All right. So we get Faith. We have a few options. I don't want heavy because we have a pretty nice back row setup, especially since we drew the Solemn. That don't want heavy. Don't want duo. We're really low already, and he doesn't have any cards in hand. It's between Mind Control and Nobleman, and I mean either way, whichever one we grab, he's going to be able to kind of play around it. Good players can do that, but I think at the end of the day, my thinking with Mind Control is that if I need to, get in some damage, get in an attack with the Cliff or whatever, I can always Mind Control whatever monster he has. So I end up going with the Mind Control. Go ahead and bring out the Cliff. I think at this point, I don't know. I mean, I'm playing a really risky game because there's a lot of things that he can draw that can absolutely do me in. Um, I think I'm willing to play the game with Mirror Force, with Torrential, because I haven't seen any of those yet. And if I really have to, I can Solemn it. And then if, the next turn I get killed by something attacking over the cliff or whatever, then, so be it. I'm willing to take that gamble. So he brings out goats. Attack one, which I don't know if that's 100% correct because he could kind of lock himself there, but at the same time I really want to make something happen. So he had a meta set. I mean, he knows I don't have Heavy Storm anymore. He knows I'm not going to get anything back with Faith, so ends up meting, and I wasn't too concerned about that because I had a ring anyway, so no biggie. Passes back to me. I want to get rid of this Faith quick before he draws a Tsukiyomi. So we attack into that. Go ahead and set the second Judgment. So this is a pretty good setup now. This is starting to look good. We have 2 Solemns. We have a ring. Or not a ring anymore. We have a Dust Tornado and a Nobleman to deal with any face downs. And a Mind Control to deal with any face downs. So pretty good setup. Setting 1. Ending his turn. We are concerned about chaos, but we have the Solemns for it, so. And if for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know if the Mind Control would ever be relevant with his chaos anyway, because he'd probably summon it in attack, and I would Solemn regardless, so I don't know. Rhoda for Blade Knight. I'm not sure if this is correct. Exiled might be better. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Blade Knight's a 100% player. I think I'm just trying to get as much damage as possible. I think that's why I bring out Blade Knight. So don't know if that's the correct play. Maybe Exile, maybe Sasuke would be better. I don't know. So the end phase goats into Decree, and we've been holding the Dust Tornado for a while, essentially for the Decree. He brings out the goats. He summons the Gorilla, which he had just drawn, I think, because he's been sitting on the whatever he has in hand, which you'll see in just a moment. Yeah, there's the BLS, which we have another Solemn for, which is really nice. And so he had just drawn that, and he'd been sitting on that, because I saw last turn he'd been holding something in hand. Except, he's a good player. They won't stare at their graveyard for 15 minutes to indicate that the chaos is coming, and sometimes you kind of just have to, anticipate what could be in their hand. It's something I need to be a lot better about. My thinking here is I don't want to lose to a meta or a creature swap, because those creature swap would not be that big of a problem. I'd be okay with that. I just don't want to lose to a meta, which this might not 100% have been the best play, but my thinking here is I just want to get rid of these tokens as fast as possible. Then I can get Cliff into defense mode, and I can start trying to just beat down for damage. And we have the Nobleman, we have the Mind Control to deal with face downs, and he doesn't have chaos anymore. So I was feeling like I was in a pretty good spot. So I decided to just get rid of the tokens. And then he draws into Kaiku, which will do it. And I don't think it was a super lucky draw, because he had, Breaker would have done it. Another Berserk Gorilla would have done it. Snatch Steel would have done it. So there was several cards that he could have drawn there that would have won it. So I don't want to say, oh, lucky top deck now. I mean, he played really well. I played pretty poorly, as per usual. But hey, that's why we're here. That's why we're looking at this footage. And definitely gave me a lot to think about. I think one of my biggest tendencies, one of my biggest mistakes in this match particularly, was just setting stuff unnecessarily that I didn't need to, and doing stuff a bit too preemptively, not anticipating what could come. But with the bad, you also have to, give yourself some credit. I think my decision to set the heavy and do a little fake think to get, a big +1 off the heavy, then the duo, another +1 off the duo, that, I felt like that was pretty good. But there was also a lot of mistakes in there. And, it was close, even though he drew really poorly game 2 and game 3. Double Nobleman against Warriors. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a good duel. It came down to the wire. I'm really curious how this would have played out if Kaiku hadn't been drawn. If I'd been able to mount a comeback, but still, we were really low, and it would have taken a lot. So I'm not sure. Regardless, it was a good game, and I do feel like I learned a little bit from watching this back. So thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, we might do this again sometime. I'm not sure. I don't want to, I don't want to commit to anything. Like I said, this is not the biggest thing in my life, but it's fun. So maybe we'll do some more of this in the future. If you'd enjoyed it, let me know. Yeah, thanks for watching. Until the next one.